You're sitting in a room that's 72 degrees. Yesterday, that same room felt perfectly comfortable. Today, after skipping meals, you're wearing a hoodie. Your hands are cold. Your feet feel like ice. Everyone else seems fine. But somehow, you're freezing. And here's the strange part. Your body temperature may have only dropped by half a degree. Half a degree. That's all it takes. A tiny change most thermometers barely notice can completely alter how you feel. Most people assume this means something is wrong, that fasting is slowing their body down, that their metabolism is crashing, that they're somehow breaking themselves. But that's not what the science shows. In fact, what you're experiencing may be one of the oldest survival programs ever written into human biology. A program so powerful that it helped humans survive famines, ice ages, food shortages, migrations, and thousands of years of uncertainty. The real question isn't why you're cold. The real question is why your body chooses to become cold in the first place. Because once you understand that answer, you'll never think about fasting the same way again. And what happens around hour 18 completely changes the story. Let's start with a simple fact. Heat is expensive. Very expensive. Your body spends enormous amounts of energy maintaining a temperature near 37 degrees Celsius or 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Think of your body like a city. Electricity powers everything. Traffic lights, hospitals, factories, homes. Now imagine that city's fuel supply suddenly gets cut in half. What happens? The city doesn't shut down. Prioritizes. Some systems get less energy. Others get protected at all costs. Your body does exactly the same thing. When food disappears, energy becomes more valuable. And the body begins asking one question: where should we spend it? Surprisingly, keeping your fingers warm isn't at the top of the list. Keeping your brain alive is. This is where most people misunderstand fasting. During the first several hours, very little changes. Your body is still using stored glycogen. Think of glycogen as your emergency fuel tank. Your liver stores glucose specifically for moments when food isn't immediately available. During this phase, body temperature remains relatively stable. You probably won't notice much. Maybe mild hunger, maybe a few cravings. But heat production remains largely unchanged. The real story begins when those reserves start running low. And that's when your body starts making decisions. Imagine the CEO of a company suddenly discovering revenue has stopped. What's the first thing they do? They audit expenses. Your body does the same thing. As glycogen levels decline, your metabolism starts evaluating where energy is being spent. And one of the largest expenses is heat production. Researchers call this adaptive thermogenesis. It sounds complicated. It's actually brilliant. Your body intentionally reduces unnecessary energy expenditure to extend survival. Not because it's failing, because it's adapting. Think about that. The cold sensation isn't evidence that your body is losing control. It's evidence that your body is taking control. And what happens next explains why your hands suddenly feel like you've been standing outside in winter. Here's something fascinating. Your body doesn't always lower core temperature first. Instead, it often changes where blood flows. This process is called vasoconstriction. Tiny blood vessels near your skin begin narrowing. Less warm blood reaches your hands. Less reaches your feet. Less reaches your ears. The result? You feel cold. But your vital organs remain protected. Think of it like a castle under siege. The outer walls receive fewer resources. The inner keep receives everything. Your body is redirecting heat toward the organs that matter most. Brain, heart, liver, kidneys. Everything else becomes less important. And from an evolutionary perspective, that's genius. Because warm fingers don't help survival if the brain stops functioning. Now we reach one of the most misunderstood parts of fasting, the thyroid. Most people know the thyroid affects metabolism. What few realize is that it also helps regulate body temperature. During prolonged fasting, levels of a hormone called T3 often decline. T3 is one of the body's primary metabolic accelerators. Think of it like a thermostat controller. Higher T3 generally means more heat production. Lower T3 means less. Now before you panic, understand something important. A temporary reduction during fasting isn't necessarily a sign of disease. It's often a strategic response. Your body is attempting to increase efficiency. Imagine driving across a desert with limited fuel. You don't floor the accelerator. You conserve. The body follows the same logic. And this is where the story becomes even more fascinating. Because while some systems slow down, others are actually speeding up. This sounds impossible. You're colder. Yet many fasters report improved focus. How can both be true? Because the body isn't shutting down. It's reallocating. As fasting continues, ketone production begins increasing. Ketones are molecules produced from stored fat. And your brain loves them. In fact, many researchers believe ketones provide a remarkably stable energy source compared to fluctuating glucose levels. So while your fingers are colder, your brain may actually be receiving cleaner fuel. Think of a company cutting office heating costs while investing heavily in its research department. One area receives less. Another receives more. That's exactly what's happening. And it's why many people experience a strange combination. Cold body, sharp mind. The two aren't contradictory. They're connected. Now here's something most people have never heard about. Brown adipose tissue, otherwise known as brown fat. Unlike ordinary body fat, brown fat specializes in producing heat. It's basically a built-in biological furnace. And fasting appears to interact with this system in fascinating ways. Brown fat contains enormous numbers of mitochondria. These tiny cellular power plants can generate heat directly. Think of them as microscopic heaters spread throughout your body. The interesting part? Individuals with healthier metabolic systems often have more active brown fat, which may explain why some people tolerate fasting remarkably well while others feel cold almost immediately. They're not experiencing the same internal heating capacity. And that's where metabolism enters the picture. Here's a surprising observation. People with lower body fat percentages frequently report feeling colder during fasts. Why? Because body fat isn't just stored energy. It's insulation. Imagine removing the insulation from a house during winter. Heat escapes faster. The furnace works harder. The same principle applies to the human body. Less insulation means less protection against heat loss. This doesn't mean being lean is bad. It simply changes how heat is managed. And during a fast, those differences become much more noticeable. But there's another reason some people struggle. And it has nothing to do with fat. This is where things get interesting. Not all fasting experiences are equal. Some people feel energized. Others feel miserable. Why? One major factor is stress. When stress levels are already high, fasting can sometimes amplify the sensation of being cold. Why? Because stress affects circulation. Fasting affects hormone balance and blood vessel behavior in ways most people don't expect. Think of it like a magnifying glass. If your metabolism is strong, fasting reveals that strength. If stress or imbalance already exists, fasting can expose that too. It doesn't always create problems, it often reveals them. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. Early humans faced food scarcity regularly. The body that survived wasn't the one that burned energy recklessly, but the one that conserved it intelligently while keeping the brain functional. During fasting, ancient survival programs activate. The body shifts energy priorities, sometimes lowering heat production to preserve fuel. This can feel like being cold, but it's not failure, it's adaptation. Efficiency often looks like discomfort, but biologically it reflects survival strategy, not dysfunction. So why does your body temperature drop when fasting? Because your body is running an energy strategy far older than civilization itself. As food disappears, glycogen declines, blood flow shifts, heat production becomes more efficient, thyroid signaling adjusts, ketones rise. Energy gets redirected toward critical systems. Your body isn't shutting down. It's reorganizing. It's making choices. Protect the brain. Protect the organs. Conserve energy. Extend survival. And in the process, your hands may become cold. Your feet may feel chilly. The room may suddenly seem colder than it did yesterday. But underneath that sensation lies an extraordinary truth. Your body is doing exactly what millions of years of evolution taught it to do. Not failing, adapting. And once you see it that way, feeling cold during a fast stops being a mystery. It becomes evidence of one of the most sophisticated,